Okay, so we are now recording, and that same goose object that you're holding in your hands right there, that came from the same girl that wrote me that note on my fridge. Brethren, the one that wrote me that note, got me that goose thing there. Shout out, Brethren, if you're
I've
listening, and I
never
know
heard
that you
that
are.
name before.
Yeah, it's pretty unique. She comes from a pretty unique family in the sense that a lot of her siblings have names that aren't like common. Like she has a sister named Emma Rain. So I don't think it's hyphenated, but we call her Emma. And then there's Brethren, who I would like to shorten to just Breath, but I don't think she'd like that.
Right.
And
What
then
what language is that?
I
Brethren?
I don't know what language that is.
Are they Lithuanian?
They could be.
Okay.
They also have a sister named Leani, and then they have another daughter named Mael.
What language is that?
I don't know.
That sounds like French, maybe.
It could be.
Maëlle.
I mean, they're all incredibly artistic, so and French are pretty artistically driven. Then they have an older sibling, a brother, or no, he's not older. I can't remember. But they have his name is Jediah, and we call him Jed or Jedi.
Jediah.
Yeah,
Jedediah.
Jediah.
Jebediah.
Then there's another sibling named Elias as well, and then I think they have another brother named Cameron. So yeah, you have all these unique names, and then you just have Cameron. Shout out Cameron.
That's like yeah, that sounds like a story or something.
I'm
Like
I'm pretty sure. That's
Brethren, Mael, Leani, uh,
Emarain.
Emmering,
You mind moving that mic a little closer to you, please? Just a
um,
little bit.
Jediah,
Yeah, Jediah.
and Cameron.
Yeah, and Cameron. Yeah, it is something like out of a fairy tale. Shout out the Redding family for being such good friends and for being uh, continuous listeners for the podcast. Because I can shame them if they don't listen, and I know when they listen and when they don't. But uh, you, Luke, have been on the podcast a few times, which I appreciate, and you and I have a pretty long history as being friends, but not a lot of time is us spent together outside of Medora because normally we live on different sides of the country. But pretty much in this calendar year, 2025, I think this is the most I've seen you outside of Medora. We got together in Washington, D.C. You came to my place just last month and crashed. And now you're here again. And the reason why you're here is because you're on a excursion being a door-to-door flag salesman for the Minnesota state flag. And I'm wondering if you could share a little bit as to your mindset and your mission and what you're doing with this new project of yours.
Yeah, yeah, it's a fun project. I when I was here last month, as you alluded to, was out in Medora again doing a performance as the marquee.
That's right.
Again for the Theodore Roosevelt uh, National Gathering, the Badlands Chautauqua they call it. So it's Theodore Roosevelt reprisers from around the country who gather there for one weekend. So anyway, I was out there for that. Um, Drove across Minnesota to go out there. Drove across Minnesota going back, and just noticed so many of the original Minnesota flag.
Yeah, so anyway, kids, if you listened to the podcast recently, I got new stuff, which means that brings with it new problems, technical difficulties. We just had some. But Luke, as you were saying, you had just started talking about kind of the history of the Minnesota state flag, and you weren't sure if the classic flag was the one that was, uh, you know, brought when when the state was ratified in the 50s, correct?
Yeah, I should know the answer to that. I don't, but it is anyway the flag that we've had for generations in Minnesota, um, and uh, and it was changed um, last year. I suppose it was voted on late 2023, um, or I suppose yeah, Yeah, it was the new flag was approved in late 2023 after a process. Um, and and so I've yeah, it was a process and a flag that I wasn't happy with.
Hmm.
Number one, the process. They did take submissions from people, suggestions for what the new flag would be.
You're talking about the state legislature?
Right,
Yeah.
right. And this was at a time when there was a trifecta, Democrat trifecta. It was a priority of Democrats, or DFL, as they're known in Minnesota,
What does DFL mean?
Democratic Farmer and Labor
Okay.
Party. And they had the House, the Senate, and the governor. And this was a priority. It's a priority because the old flag was deemed racist, um, primarily for the depiction of a Native American and a white farmer. Um,
And
uh,
were those based off actual people, or were those just caricatures?
I believe they were just symbolic. It wasn't
Okay.
based on any
All right.
particular people. Um, and I think it's I think looking back in the future, when we look back on well, kind of the woke period of the last few years,
Hmm.
I think this kind of fits well into that. The cancellation of something because it's um, deemed unacceptable for 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 reasons, in this case, deemed racist. So um, that was why it was a priority to have a new flag. A committee was assembled of people with knowledge in what makes a good flag, and they looked through all of the submissions that were entered and came up with some finalists, and that was whittled down. I was very, I was following it closely, um, and um, there was a flag design called the North Star flag that was designed in the 1980s. It had been gaining organic popularity. You were seeing it around the states already. A nice design, I will say, and it didn't make it into the finalists. I was quite surprised by that. Um, and um, and so there were six finalists. I was not real excited about any of them.
Hmm.
Um, they went with one of them, but they didn't really just go with this design. The design was fine. It wasn't great. Um, it was kind of two triangles on the left, like you'll see in this newly instated flag, kind of to symbolize the shape of Minnesota, with three stripes of different colors on the coming out from the right. And the committee changed it. As I remember, they made the final changes to the flag on the same day that they voted for it,
Okay.
which to me is kind of crazy,
That is
right?
crazy.
You're going to be choosing a flag to represent the state for the next 200 years,
Hmm.
as long as the state exists. And to think that you create the design on the same day that you vote for it, with giving people um, no chance for the public to digest that at all, or to get a sense of, is this going to be well received or not. I
Right.
feel like that's pretty important
I would say
when
so.
you're choosing a symbol that's going to represent the people,
Well,
for generations to come. I think that's important, and that just was simply lacking. The fact that there was no referendum on it, I feel like, is also troubling. I think that's generally been the course of action when states have changed flags. There have been a few that have changed. Um, Utah, Mississippi. I'm trying to think if there are others. There certainly have been plans for others, but um, I think if it's going to be a symbol of the people, you've got to have the people come together on that. It can't just be like a bill passed in the legislature. I think something like a state flag needs to be something that kind of wells up from the people, which I mean is a huge argument for the North Star flag. The fact that it had already been welling up, I mean, organic popularity since the 80s, which I just think is a really important
Hmm.
factor in a successful symbol. And it was just to see that not even make it into the final round after kind of having been the symbol of like the new flag movement for a long time was quite surprising. Um, and so I don't know why it didn't. Anyway, um, new flag was instated, and I noticed just when I worked in Congress last fall, walking around the halls of the congressional office buildings, well, the House in particular. We have four Minnesota members who are Republican and four Minnesota members who are Democrat. All of the Republicans have the old flag,
Mm.
the original flag
Okay.
outside their office. All of the Democrats have the new flag outside their office. So I think it's totally predictable that this became um, a divisive issue, right?
Yeah.
It it was not done, I think, with any regard or concern for unity. I think it was done. The new flag, to me, looking back, it feels like it was just a show of force. It was um, an attempt at a victory, um, and ignoring those who might disagree with them. Uh, so totally predictable that when you unilaterally, without really listening to the state as a whole, but just kind of pushing through an agenda, create a new flag, um, it's not going to be well received by those whose voice you weren't really considering. Um, be one thing if you put it to a vote and the majority of Minnesotans showed support for a new flag, and then that was the design that they chose, would be a totally different context. Um, but just like that, with one kind of trifecta government for one legislative term, you can get rid of the old flag. But really now, um, uh, I haven't even gotten to talking about selling the flag.
Well, yeah.
But
Well, there's a lot of questions that I wanna get to. Firstly, so yeah, let's break this down because yeah, like the reason why you are at my place in the first place is because you're literally doing door-to-door flag sales, which I find to be really interesting. But let's crack this open a little wider here. So, like, it sounds to me from your assessment that the changing of the state flag was really more of a small scale cultural battle and how it's set up, just as how you described it, where you have the Republicans flying the old flag, now you have the Democrats flying the new flag. There's a pretty stark divide there. But then I also have to ask this question as well. How important do you think it is to have state flags and like state mottos? Because like I know each state has a flag and each one has a motto. I think North Dakota's, motto is I don't know it. I'm catching myself and I'm tripping over myself here. No, be legendary or something like that.
I think,
You
yeah,
know,
I think
you know,
that's what they,
or
yeah, they've used for tourism anyway.
yeah. So it's like
Right.
so really for me, I only know of state flags and mottos being just that, just for tourist purposes. Really for me, when I think of the flag of my home, I think of the flag of the country I live in being the American flag. And so, from your perspective, someone who's been much more, you know, in the halls of government, both literally and metaphorically, I mean, what place do you think state flags have? What do you think that says about individuality? Do you think there should be individuality? Like, yeah, how important is it, do you think, that each state is identifiable beyond just the name that's associated with their state?
Well, like you say, the American flag is important to you. When you think of your home, you think of the American flag.
Hmm.
When you think of the flag of your home, you think of the American flag. So I think it carries a lot of significance. I think symbols can have a great unifying power. It takes something that is very complex and abstract and brings it down into something. discernible.
Hmm.
Like America is this massive complex. Like, what is America? It's the government, it's the history, it's the people,
Yep.
it's the land, and a symbol kind of takes all of that and puts it together. It even helps you, I think, in your mind put together conceptually. Uh, this is one thing, one unified thing. Um, so that's a good question. Yeah, how important are flags um, to a state? I'm a big believer in kind of state pride, local pride.
Yep.
Um, it's very important to be patriotic and to be American. I mean, you're proud to be American. But we are a massive country, and we're a country that was built out of 13 separate entities that had pretty
Yep.
distinct identities. Um, and and I think it's good to be proud of that which is very close to you, whether that be your town, whether that be your state, even your family. Um, this is I mean, getting into the Catholic social teaching principle of subsidiarity, which is um, that I think well, formally I think it's that in society, the smallest unit possible which can perform a task should perform that task. So if the family can do something, if the family can raise children, for example, that shouldn't be the job of the state government or of the federal government, right? But the general principle here is that um, uh, that which is local is generally more effective, or maybe you feel more investment in that. So I think state pride is a very important thing. All this to say, and something like a state flag is a great kind of representation of that state pride. Um, yeah, I guess it's tempting to say that, well, it's just a symbol. It's just a piece of fabric, or.
Sure.
But actually, I think the kind of things that we have as symbols, they're not they are representing the most important things, right? The things that people symbolize are not are not trivial things in your life,
Hmm.
right? Like you don't make a symbol of the I don't know, the coffee mug that you use
Right.
every day,
Yep.
or you don't make a symbol of like your bed sheets or something,
Right.
right? Just everyday mundane things. You make symbols of the most important things,
Yep.
right? Like for a lot of people, the country, America, is very important to them. We're having a cross or a statue of, of Mary, for example, in your yard, right? Is representing what is of low importance, but what is of the highest importance,
Right.
right? Or pictures of your family,
Yeah.
right?
Okay, and we're back. And just as we got cut off again, you were just talking about how symbols can be identifiable for an individual or people, that you're talking about. And as you were saying that, you were looking around my apartment looking for symbols and stuff like that. So, like, what do you gauge from me with what I have around my place?
That movies are very important to you,
Hmm.
sports are important to you, that America is important to you. I see this map over here with different little tourism signs for every
Yeah.
state.
It's made out of license plates and movie posters that, like if a movie was filmed in that state, it'd be
Hmm.
represented there. Otherwise, it's license plates.
Hmm. Right. So I think symbols are very important. Symbols have been with humans for as long as I guess for as long as we have archaeological records. So clearly, it's very important. Um, yeah.
Yeah. And so, with there being an understanding of the importance of these logos, both for something as simple as a sports team, which represents something very local, to something like a state flag or motto, which is again also kind of localized, but it really represents more of the state in a unified sense, because a state can have multiple sports teams. With the flag in particular of Minnesota, you looked at that process at which it was changed by, you disagreed with it there. Then you looked at the end result that that change brought, and it's really not anyone's cup of tea. The only exposure I've had to the flag system is just knowing that the state flag did change, and I've heard no one say it was a change for the better. And so you have now taken it upon yourself to do a real boots on the ground campaign to try to harken back to the old flag system, and you're being a door to door flag salesman, which on its surface and face kind of just sounds kooky, because there aren't really door salesmen anymore. Like, everything is done via online and stuff like that. But you're pounding the pavement, trying to bring back this culture. And so I just wonder if you wanted to talk about that at all.
Right. So, as I drove across the state when I was here last month, I clearly noticed that there were lots of the original flag throughout the state, and and a lot of the new flag in the Twin Cities. And it was totally that divide that kind of exists in the state right now between Greater Minnesota and the Twin Cities. Surprised to see even city halls and official organizations, parks, flying the original flag still. That this is not something that has been received well by much of the state. And not just by, individual people upset with it, but even by kind of local institutions, important local institutions, local government. And so it was clear to me that demand for the original flag was high. And I suppose after the flag was changed, I was kind of I was resigned to it. I was disappointed for sure. It didn't seem like it would be realistic to remove the new flag, as kind of lackluster as it was, as unhappy with it as I was. It just didn't seem feasible. But I guess it's really struck me that there has been significant resistance to it, and I think the most effective form of resistance right now is to stand up for the original flag, to say we were not happy with this process. It should have been done better. And in a democratic society, I think that is absolutely your right to say, through um, public opinion, through the process of um, of law, let's make our voices heard. Let's see if we can change this. I think it's a ripe moment right now, because the new flag has only been around for a year and a half, and feelings are still strong. So my goal really now is to promote the original flag by getting it out there as much as possible. Um, I would like to see everyone who, like me, recognizes the problems with how the new flag was chosen and was saddened to see the original flag go, was saddened to see a design that I really think is not good
Yeah.
um, for lack of a better way to put it. I mean, it's people feel very strongly that the new flag doesn't look real impressive. And I don't even see a lot of enthusiasm for it among those who support it.
Yeah.
It's not like this is an incredible flag. Like I love this flag. It's more like, the old flag was bad. Why would you want the old flag? This flag, let's have this flag instead. This flag was chosen by a
Yeah,
committee.
yeah, yeah.
They're not. It just seems to me like people are in their gut not convinced
Yeah.
by this design. Which I mean, I would be surprised if they were. Like
Yeah.
this particular design. And okay, you can say that there was something similar that was being looked at by the committee for, I don't know, several days, weeks. But this particular design, nobody even had 24 hours to consider it
Yeah.
before, boom, it was voted on. So the fact that it's pretty lackluster is not surprising. I think it was a massive missed opportunity. Um, it really could have been a moment for Minnesotans to consider this important collective symbol. I think there were Minnesotans who felt that the original flag um, was not, from a design standpoint, strong, because there's a lot of flags that are blue background with a state seal,
Yeah.
like the original Minnesota flag. I wish that was a conversation that could have happened, and we could have, as a state, as Minnesotans, decided um, upon a symbol. Instead, something was kind of imposed, and
Yeah.
I think that's really what it came down to. A committee imposed it. Um, you know what they say about a camel, right, James?
I can't say I do. What do they say about a camel?
A camel is a horse designed by committee.
I've,
So
I've never
just
heard that.
the idea that it's very hard to create something good in a committee, right? The American flag was not designed by a committee. It was designed by, as far as I know, a singular person,
Yeah.
right?
Her name escapes me.
Betsy Ross.
Betsy Ross,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
It's a good Jeopardy question.
And right, so my goal now, I think the best form of resistance is simply to promote the original flag and say, let's just wind back the clock.
Yeah.
If we want to have this conversation again and have a referendum about changing the flag and what is the best symbol for Minnesota, let's do that. But leave that up to the people. Yeah, I just think it was sad to see the original flag just kind of discarded like that for what I think are pretty flimsy reasons, and replaced by what I think is a pretty flimsy design. Um, so so yes, I've been going door to door,
Yeah.
selling the flag.
What's the response to that, Ben?
It's been yeah, it's been strong. I was in Sauk Center primarily. I've only done 3 days of it, so it's brand new. Um, I was in Sauk Center, and okay, well, I'll say this: the response where I've been in kind of the Sauk Center area, Maple Lake, Minnesota as well, almost universally positive.
Great.
Almost universally, people say, "Good luck. I love what you're doing. Don't like the new flag. So glad that you're out there promoting the the original flag." People always ask me when I go up with telling them that I'm selling the original flag. They always double check to make sure you mean the old flag, not the new flag, right?
Right, right.
We
Yeah.
don't like the new flag. I hear that time and time again. It would be a different story if I did this in the Twin Cities, of course, but it just goes to show that division. Right?
Very true.
In the Twin Cities, you see a lot of the new flag. Well, I really I don't think you see that much of the new flag in the Twin Cities. You see a lot of the original flag.
Well, that's the only place I've seen it because I was just in Minneapolis to catch a Twins game. I saw the Twins versus the Royals. Shout out Luke Keeschel, who won that game with a walk-off home run. That's when you talk about the flag now, the only place I see it is really in the big population centers of Minnesota. In my in my limited
It's
exposure to it.
it's roughly the only place you'll see it, but I still it's not like it's overwhelming. It's
Right.
not it's
Yeah.
not everywhere. Right. It's yeah. There is a division over it right now. Um, yeah. So from my standpoint, I just kind of took it as a personal initiative to help this cause. It's a cause I care about.
Yeah.
It's very fledgling right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's a brand new idea. It's kind of a like you say, it feels a little kooky. It's a little crazy. But I like kind of crazy ideas,
Yeah.
and this seemed feasible. It was a good cause, and I'm flexible right now in my work in DC, and so I have the freedom to come to Minnesota for a week
Yeah.
and work on this. It's been a lot of fun. So the response has been very positive in terms of support for the project. Um, from just a business standpoint, I've been almost exactly in terms of average flags sold per hour, flags sold per day. I'm right on kind of the target that I was expecting, which has been interesting to see.
That to me is crazy, by the way, because I remember in high school, we would sell cookies for field trip money, and it seemed like that was difficult. You know, now you're going to strangers' places with flags, and you're talking about getting return on investment, and I was like, I can't believe this. You're a heck of a salesman. So it's just
I
crazy to hear
I don't
about.
know I don't know if I'm that much of that good of a salesman, but I just sense that there is demand for the flag. Okay, that's what it came down to.
Yeah.
I sensed there was significant demand. I thought if this town hall, is flying the original flag, there has to be a lot of support here
Hmm.
for it. If I see that flag flying in just about every small town I go through, and I see none of the new flag, it's clear where public opinion is, abundantly clear where
Right.
public opinion is. And so I thought, okay, there's a huge unmet demand. I would love to help meet that for my own business uh, advantage and for the cause. And and I think kind of the idea of the door-to-door sales is there's a demand for the flag, but many people may not go out of their way to seek out a flag.
It's very true.
Some of them might not even be aware that it's possible to
Yep.
still get the original flag. And so, but I had a sense that if it's really this popular, if it's clear that this is where public opinion is, I think many people, if simply presented with the opportunity, would take it.
I think you're right.
And I wanted to help. I want to help people visualize the where public opinion is at even
Yeah.
more clearly.
Hmm.
If you can drive through a town and every block has the original Minnesota flag, it's hard to ignore,
Right.
and it's clear. I mean, it makes you, even if you support the new flag, it makes you think twice
Hmm.
about how it went down, how it was received. I think it's pretty telling if there is this level of discontent with the new flag, right? It's not. It's one thing to pursue a policy, just kind of whether it be on any hot button issue, right? Uh, the party in power can pursue a policy that many of the people in the state will be unhappy with.
Right.
That's one thing. I feel like something like a flag, which is just to show general civic pride,
Right.
shouldn't be be something so controversial. And if it is, I feel like the people who are at fault are those who instated the new symbol,
Mm.
the new flag. Because
Okay.
a flag is meant to be a symbol of unity. It's meant to be something that brings people together. And um, if you simply can't convince people that this is what they should unite under, I think it's not their fault. It's your fault
Sure.
for not coming up with a unifying symbol. So it's sad that it's become such a polemical, controversial issue. But I guess those who are upset with the change are not the ones who brought it about. So it's gonna be a fight to some degree. I just saw it today. There's a petition that just surpassed 10,000 signatures of those who are unhappy with the change.
Mm.
We'll see where that goes. Um, but I think there's going to be a natural tendency for this to fade, and I want to do my part, my at this point small part, to prevent that because I think what happened was a missed opportunity. It was um, something. I think a great state like Minnesota deserves better
Yeah.
than what happened, and I'm doing a small part um, in that, just kind of through this personal initiative of mine. Yeah, it's been interesting. Just a few days ago when I knocked on those first few doors, it felt a little bit crazy. Like
Yeah.
like what in the world?
Sounds like it could be a little scary too.
I'm just a guy carrying bags of blue fabric.
Yeah.
um, but my sense, what gave me confidence even before I started this was that generally, if you see a solicitor at your door, the kind of immediate gut reaction, emotional reaction is annoyance at the person.
Right.
But I had a sense that if they knew what I'm doing, like at the beginning, like they opened up the door and they see that I'm promoting the original flag,
Yeah.
my thought is the immediate emotional reaction is not going to be against me. It's going to be something like, I don't like that new flag.
It's
Or
about time.
I wish we could have that original flag
Yeah.
back. And I think that has actually been something that I just noticed subtly.
You're striking.
When people open the door, they kind of have one facial expression, which is the facial expression that you expect someone to have when
Yeah.
a solicitor comes to their door. And when they see my T-shirt that says Minnesota Flag Project,
Yep.
which is what I'm calling this initiative, and they see me holding the flags, um, I notice their facial expression change, and so often there's a little smirk on their face.
Yeah.
They're a little more open to conversation.
Well, it sounds like you're striking a chord that people don't necessarily talk about.
Right. I think it is striking a chord.
You need some water or something?
Yeah, I'll grab some water
Okay,
here.
that's fine. Yeah, it's cool. He's just getting some water, kids. Make sure you stay hydrated out there. It's hot outside. We're in the middle of summer, with it being August. But no, I really like what you're doing. I mean, like part of the whole reason, with this podcast is that I wanted it to provide an outlet for people that I think are genuinely interesting and have interesting opinions on interesting topics, and for people that can educate me and the listeners on things that aren't necessarily top of mind. Like I said, I don't think hardly ever about state flags or mottos, yet you're devoting a lot of time, passion, money, resources, energy to this. And I've found that to be really interesting. And just as you and I were talking about it just over dinner, and just hearing you talk about it just with me, I was like, this should be recorded. This should be shared. Like, because you're doing your part, and I agree with you. Whereas like I'm not helping you sell the flags, but like whatever platform the Far Out podcast can provide for this, I hope it helps you because I like Minnesota too. So I want to see culture both in a small sense and in a large sense return back to a state of normalcy, and I'm just really thankful to have someone like you as a friend who's literally just doing it. So yeah, right on. Just keep going, man.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I think one positive thing that comes out of this is there is more awareness of our state flag
Yeah.
in general. I got a state flag when I was in high school, you know, probably 10, 15 years ago,
Yeah.
and flew it at our house. And back then, the state flag was not a really common sight anywhere.
Right.
But I've always been a very proud Minnesotan, and I was like the idea of celebrating and promoting the flag. It's funny how, when I was flying that flag not that long ago, it was something totally uncontroversial and normal, and no one would have
Yeah.
batted an eye
Right.
at it. And now it's just become so polemical. I guess, yeah, it probably does get to the point where um, there will be two symbols, and it's hard to see a way out of that. But I just I think the original flag is better, if for no other reason than it has kind of a connection to heritage of of the state, which I think is something that is so easily tossed aside.
Yeah.
Tradition and heritage, history. It's kind of like as I was talking about with the North Star flag. There's not really a real replacement for organic popularity.
Hmm.
Like, you can't create organic
Right. Yeah,
popularity.
you can't force that.
In the same way, you can't. There's no way to replace tradition or history. I suppose the argument is that, well, it's not tradition or history yet, but you can change it now, and eventually it will be, and this is a better way to do things. But I think that should be done, if it's done, with a great deal of caution, which I think was thrown by the wayside
Mm.
in this process. So I'm doing my part, however small. I've sold um, a number of flags each day for the past few days, and I hope to see this grow. I hope to see. I'm very curious to see what happens with this petition, to see if it can be brought to a referendum. Curious to know what the results of that referendum might be. But above all, for me, it's fun.
Good.
It's a project that, I didn't know if it would be successful, didn't know if it would be profitable, but I thought, this idea, I think it could work. I think there's a good chance it could work. I think it would be fun to try. If nothing else, it's a great way to just kind of see Minnesota, which I've been away from for 5 years now.
Yeah, it's a good excuse to travel.
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, get my plane ticket paid for, and
Yep.
um, but yeah, I would love to see this movement grow.
That's great. That's just I love things that are just driven by passion, whether it's something like this with me just starting the podcast, whether it's someone, you know, I don't know, just putting all their time and energy into something that, you know, might not get a lot of exposure, but they're just, yeah, I love passion projects. Power to the local dreamer, I say. I think that's an important thing, and I love what you're doing. Uh, how can how can myself or anyone that's listening to this support you? I mean, like, you know, is there anything we can do? Like, can we tweet about it? Can we repost something? I'll be praying for you, of course. Like anything like that.
Well, certainly sign this petition. I think it's on change.org,
Okay.
about the Minnesota flag. And I'm always happy to sell the flag, of course. Like I say, I want to see these flags flying in as many places as possible across the state. I'd
Right.
like to cover the state in our original time-honored Minnesota flag. My email address that you can reach me at for that is minnesotaflagproject@gmail.com. Let me know if you're interested in having a flag. We're selling for $40 a piece for the standard 3x5 flags and $25 a piece for the 2x3 size. So, um, send me an email. Let me know, no matter where you are in the state or perhaps even out of the state. I'd be happy to get you a flag.
That's awesome. That's very cool. Well, Luke, just thanks so much for just coming on very impromptu style to the podcast. Because again, the more you talked about this to me, I just thought this is so interesting. And so I just know that anyone who listens to this will also find it interesting as well. But yeah, just keep doing what you're doing, just for the betterment of the state, for the betterment of the country as well, for the change that this could provoke, and also just for reshaping culture as well. It's really important, and I'm really happy to, be whatever part I can be in this. So yeah, I think you're doing great things, and I think you'll continue to do great things. And yeah, one more time, what's it called? The Flag Project, Minnesota?
Minnesota Flag
The
Project. Yeah,
Minnesota Flag
yeah.
Project. Okay, well, kids, if Luke Larson happens to knock on your door, greet him with a handshake and a smile, and consider buying a flag. So yeah, we'll see you in the next one.
I can support that. Thanks, James.
All right, bye bye.